Inglourious Basterds is one of the best movies ever made. Nobody's surprised to hear that statement. This movie being a part of Quentin Tarantino's already extensive collection of hit movies. Movies like Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Django Unchained, Hateful Eight, all classics in their own right, but Inglourious Basterds is something else. It's been a while since I've had a true contender for King of the Hill, but since this is an adult movie, I'm going to be covering it by the plot, the characters, and the likes and dislikes. But I brought someone to help me out. Joining me today is the person that suggested this movie. The person I brought along today goes by many names. Names like Mr. Know-It-All, Adam Cole, etc. For the sake of this video, I'm going to call him James. James is going to pop up in and out, so whenever he feels like it, he'll say a few words. If this is your first movie review, go ahead and hit subscribe. Go look around. We got a fuck ton of content out there for you. But with all that being said, let's get started. The plot of Inglourious Basterds is a very simple one. A group of renegade Americans known as the Bastards going into World War II to fight some Nazis.
And the way the film is structured is that it's split into 5 different chapters. The first one being called Once Upon a Time in Nazi-occupied France, the second being called Inglourious Basterds, the third being called A German Night in Paris, and the fourth being called Operation Kino, and finally the last one being called Revenge of the Giant Face.
Meanwhile, the Nazis want to make a movie about Frederick Zoller and his performance in the war. Keep in mind, this is taking place near the end of World War II.
This plot to destroy this premiere of the Nazi film ends up turning into something much bigger when it turns out premiere has been moved to a much smaller venue. Even Hitler himself was attending it, thus urging on the bastards to pursue the assassination of Hitler.
During the premiere of Frederick's movie, a Jewish girl named Shosanna acts revenge on the Nazis from many years ago. I think the plot's pretty good. I don't really have too many complaints about it, but there is some things I gotta say about it. For starters, there's a point where they have to meet with an actress to find a way into the movie premiere, but they let the actress choose the rendezvous point, which was fucking stupid. Look, I get it. She wanted to have a little bit of control in this because she's betraying her country. I understand that, but don't you think it would be better if the people who are affiliated with military and strategy planned out this mission? Not some German actress. Shosanna's plan from the get-go was pretty straightforward. Get them in a building and light them all on fire. The Bastards' plan was terrible, because of course things went wrong. The actress ended up getting shot, and a couple of the Bastards ended up dying in a shootout. So the Bastards then had to come up with a backup plan, and this backup plan was even worse. Instead, you get to hear Brad Pitt doing a southern accent, pretending like he's Italian at the same time, which, to be fair, is pretty funny. Makes them look like complete dipshits. And of course, the plan doesn't work for the Bastards, but Shosanna's plan works flawlessly. Overall, the plot's pretty straightforward, and honestly, it didn't need to be much else. There are little nitpicks here and there, like how Hans just completely dicks around with people the whole movie. The only other major complaint I have about the plot is the whole British portion of it. Not only does it completely waste a bunch of talented actors, but at the end of the day, they were solely there just to get one guy killed. Other notes I have concerning the plot are more focused relatively on the characters, so I think I'll just jump into characters now.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
One thing this movie does incredibly well is their character writing. So let's start off with Aldo, aka Brad Pitt.
Lieutenant Aldo Raine is one of the funniest characters in this whole film, whether it's his accent, whether it's the constant snorting of cocaine throughout the entire movie, or whether it's just the way he phrases things and the way he talks to other people. It's just so funny, but you can always tell that he means every single word that he says.
Aldo is the leader of the Bastards. He's about as American as you can get. It's like if a woman gave birth to a bald eagle carrying a can of Bud Light while singing the national anthem with an American flag strapped to its ass. That's Aldo. While extremely brave in his actions, he's not exactly the brightest. Once their plan falls to shit, he's the one who comes up with the backup plan, which is dumb. But Aldo is a really memorable character in this movie. Brad Pitt's performance of him was actually pretty good. Definitely the best bastard of the team. But now let's talk a little bit about my favorite character, Hans, aka the Jew Hunter, played by Christoph Waltz. This character is up there with some of my favorite villains in all of cinema. He reminds me a little bit of Fletcher from Whiplash. A very sadistic person, but also has like this charming, unsettling demeanor the whole movie.
I feel that some people might say how little screen time Hans Landa gets in the movie is quite bad, but I feel you get just enough of Landa to make him such an intimidating figure, so dangerous and so perceptive of his surroundings that he knows exactly what is coming next.
Christoph Waltz is also playing a Nazi, so it's pretty easy to hate the guy. He's highly intelligent, but also extremely conniving and deceiving at the same time. He even somehow finds his way on the winning side at the very end, even though he's the biggest dick of the entire movie. Besides Hitler, of course. And the worst that he gets is a scar on his head, but still gets diplomatic immunity, so he still played the system pretty well, even though that sick son of a bitch did so much wrong. Somehow he got away with the best deal known to man. Let's see, what other characters I got? Oh, we got Hitler. I don't know whoever played Hitler, but whoever did played their heart out of this role. Kind of weird, but they did a good job with it. I don't really need a character analysis for Hitler. He's fucking terrible. That's all you need to know. And of course there's the iconic line that everyone knows from this movie. There's a guy named Hugo who's one of the bastards. Used to be in the German army but killed many Nazis, but he isn't really too important to this story. There's Donnie, or as everyone else knows him as, the Bear Jew. I really wish they did more with Donnie in this movie. Sure, he gets to be there to kill Hitler and die in the explosion, but really? We couldn't do just a little bit more for that badass introduction? His friends hyped him up, his colleagues hyping him up, the sound of his bat playing, the music in the background, everything so perfect. Even the way he brutally beats a Nazi. Yet somehow I feel underwhelmed by Donnie in this movie. A character that had so much promise, just not really explored much. And it's kind of sad. Too many moving parts in this movie, and Donnie unfortunately was a casualty of it. What a damn shame. There's of course Frederick Zoller. The guy who plays him is the villain of Captain America Civil War. Can't think of his name right now. But surprisingly, this is like the 4th time I've seen him play a Nazi. I mean, at a certain point, you gotta wonder what's going on with your career if you played a Nazi 4 fucking times. He's the one who's getting the movie made about him, but he's mainly just a tool for Shosanna. Follows her around like a puppy dog for most of the movie and then gets all rapey near the end. He goes out doing absolutely nothing and making himself look stupid, which really fits his character pretty well. There's a guy named Joseph. He's Hitler's second in command. He ordered the movie to be made and dies in the fire, leaving little to no impact on this movie.
The other main character in this movie is Shosanna, who is a survivor of the massacre of her family by Hans Landa and his group of SS soldiers in the opening of the movie, and she ends up escaping from them after running away.
The brains of the entire explosion operation. She gets to brag about it too, making an entire film right before the fire, just to rub it in the dirty Nazis' faces. Yeah, I wish she was a part of the bastard. She would have made a great teammate. Unfortunately, she doesn't get to live to see the rest of how this plays out. After Frederick barges his way into the room, she shoots him 3 times, but doesn't finish the job, which for somebody who's trying to kill a bunch of Nazis, rookie mistake. Frederick caps her. Shosanna dies on the floor. There's Marcel, who also works for Shosanna. They're actually lovers. He's mainly there to help Shosanna set up the plan. The guy who plays Magneto is one of the bastards that ends up dying in that bar scene. Gets shot in the dick multiple times. For what little screen time he had, he did a good job. And then of course there's the German actress who really got done dirty in this movie. Yeah, she was gonna betray her country, watched a bunch of her friends die in front of her, then got interrogated by the bastards, then had to wear a cast to a movie premiere, and then Hans just choked her to death. What a shitty fucking deal that was. I think that's it for characters. There's a lot of characters that are a part of the bastards that I didn't really mention, but I'm mainly not mentioning them because they're not exactly important. There's about 8 of the bastards, and I've only mentioned maybe like 5 total. But now I think it's time that we move on to likes and dislikes. We always start positive in this section. For starters, I think the main cast was amazing. The style of this movie is classic Tarantino. I have yet to see a bad Tarantino movie. If you like gore, this is a really gory movie for you. And if you aren't a fan of gore, maybe set this movie out. The soundtrack of this movie kicks fucking ass. The plot is actually convincing and captivating for once. I feel like every time I do a movie review, I have something to say bad about the plot. I already mentioned the introduction of the Bear Jew, but I just gotta mention it again. It was perfect.
Aldo Rain's speech near the beginning of the film is such an amazing speech. It is so funny, it is so uplifting, just so inspiring, and you really get to see Brad Pitt's acting skills go to work.
Watching Hitler get shot up and then an entire room of Nazis exploding. Mwah! Beautiful.
There were so many tiny details in this movie that are so great. Just even in the opening, the way he switches to English because he knows that the family underneath the floorboard doesn't speak English, and the way that he pulls out a pipe that pipe is Sherlock Holmes's pipe, so he is telling the audience that he knows what's going on and he's solved the whole thing. Another amazing detail is when Shoshana meets Hans Landa for later on in the story in the restaurant. To test if Shoshana is Jewish, he orders her a strudel with cream. Strudel at that time would have been made with animal lard, most likely from a pig, and cream. Both are not kosher, which Jews cannot eat.
And now we move on to my very slim dislikes. My major complaint in this movie: why the hell did Hans let Shosanna go? Seriously? The ending of this movie doesn't happen without Shosanna. I just thought it was very out of character for Hans. He always seemed like the arrogant type, but he was way more clever than that. And it just felt like a little piece of character writing that just didn't fit well. That's probably more of a nitpick more than anything too, but that's kind of where I'm going with these dislikes.
My only dislike of this movie comes with the ending, which is that I feel like the deaths of Omar, Donnie, and Shoshana could all be avoided. They could have easily gone out of there. And Shoshana, if she just took up the old rule of double tapping Frederick Zoller, she could have easily made it out of there.
This next one genuinely pissed me off. The fact that Mike Myers' scene was so unnecessary and such a waste of his time. It was like maybe 5 minutes long, and Mike Myers gets one of the smallest roles in the entire film, when he could have just been somebody else. I would have been so happy if I didn't see Mike Myers, because there was no point of him being there. That's all I really got.
You know something, you rich? I think this just might be my masterpiece.
I knew this movie was pretty good going in, but rewatching it now, I get to see so many amazing things. Small details making the movie better, a plot that made sense to the viewers. I got to watch a movie and I got to say, they did a really good job. So now I'm going to jump to King of the Hill. For those of you that don't know what King of the Hill is where I rank all the movies that I've covered so far, and I see what the best movie is that I've covered. My current King of the Hill is Kingsman Secret Service. And I gotta tell you, Inglourious Bastards definitely beats it. With Kingsman, I still had major complaints about the whole plot, but this one I don't. So we have a new King of the Hill, which is Inglourious Bastard. As for my rating of this movie, you can already imagine it's going to be pretty high. I would say this movie is about a 9. The only reason why I'm not going to put it at a 10 out of 10 for this movie is missing a little bit of that emotional impact that I feel like a movie deserves. So while this movie isn't going to get a 10 out of 10, it came damn close. James, would you like to add anything else?
So overall, I feel that Inglourious Basterds is one of Quentin Tarantino's best movies, if not his best. It shows his directing skill off perfectly, and it shows the acting skill off of everyone in that perfectly.
Thank you all for watching this. If you liked it, go ahead and give a subscribe. Do it or I'll kill your dog. If you want to be a part of voting for the next movie review, go to @ShepBandicootClips on Instagram, or you can join our new Discord server where you can suggest any movie that you like and help figure out the voting for that. If you want to collab for anything, let me know there too. We also have a Twitch, so go check us out on Twitch. And if you're a Rec Room nerd like me, go ahead and add Mr. Know-It-All on Rec Room. No spaces. Maybe gift them something special. Alright, I'm going to leave you guys alone now.